So Callaway introduced the Opus family around a year ago. It wasn't long ago, and it has been a great success. The Opus Wedge for us in store, in all stores, has performed brilliantly, and we know that from market data it's actually performed very, very well as well. Callaway before that kind of were in the doldrums when it came to the wedge game. They had the MG series carrying on for too long, Jaws and so on and so forth, and it became quite a tired part of their product makeup. Opus, however, last year really launched and kind of brought them back into the mix when guys were talking about wedges. So what Callaway have done now is they've taken the original Opus, which was this one from last year, and they've upgraded to the Opus SP. Now, what does SP stand for? It stands for spin pocket. So what they've done with this wedge is they've made sure they've played around with the CG to make sure that we get a more of a penetrative flight off your wedges, which you might not think that you want, but when it comes to these powerful irons nowadays, what you don't want is you don't want your pitching wedge in your normal set flying off at some real good ball speeds, and then your 52 or your 50-degree specialist wedge, if you like, popping up really high with no spin, and there's a huge gap between those two. This isn't new in the wedge game. A few other brands have done this for quite a few years now, is play around where the CG sits to enable you to get a more of a penetrative flight off the face and use the loft more of the golf club. Now, SP is spin pocket. They've got this new groove pattern that's 17-degree angle to really make sure that you get some chew on the golf ball and that ball's going to spin and you get some control around the greens. Initial look, it looks really neat, it looks really clean, it's simple, and I quite like that in a wedge. That's where I am. We've got two colors, so we've got two finishes. You've got the black shadow finish and the tour chrome finish. The tour players, Callaway say that the tour players have spent a lot of time helping them shape this design to make sure that it suits their eye. I'm always interested to see how it sits behind the ball. They have got the 5 wedge grinds. So in terms of Callaway, one of the most popular grinds that they had was the X grind, and they've brought that back in this family of wedges. Now, there's 5 grinds overall. You've got T, C, X, S, and W. And what do they actually mean? Well, the T grind is the tour inspired grind, right? It's got a little bit more of heel and toe relief. It allows the player to open the face up, toe and the heel, and really manipulate that a little bit more. The C grind is probably the most, or they call it the the most versatile wedge on the market for them. It's a little bit deeper in the heel, in the bounce section, so you can actually open that up. X grind, it's back, it's tight. You're going to sit with very low bounce options, and this one's going to sit quite tight to the floor. And then we go into S and W. So S is the straight grind. It's a very simple straight line edge. You're not really going to want to open this up. You're going to want to play this with a straight leading edge and a very square face. With the W grind, the bottom and the bounce of the club is a lot wider, so therefore you are going to have, if you struggle with deep divots or you struggle in bunkers, W grind might be an option, especially in the lofted wedges. So they've got 5 grinds, they've made it simple to understand. There's a great story behind it. It's time to get into TrackMan. Let's hit a few and just see how they perform. So, although we're not going to learn a huge amount from wedge data off of a mat, we know that we're not going to learn a huge amount of how it's interacting with the turf and how the spins are working. It is quite nice, I guess, for you guys just to see me hit a few and see what the numbers say and just really get some feedback on the look. Now, Callaway fortunately have sent us the two heads, and they've sent them in 2 grinds. So I've got the 60-degree 10S, so the 10 degrees of bounce with the straight head, or the standard head if you like, and I've got the 60 12 degrees of bounce in the X grind, that new grind that's popped back into their mix. So first things first, when you lay them behind the ball, they are really good looking wedges. Now, if I grab that, and one of the good comparisons when you do with wedges isn't necessarily against other brands, it's actually against previous models. So my immediate take is they'll obviously look very similar. They're not going to reinvent the wheel. For me, Opus SP just sits a little bit more bulbous at the top end, gives me a little bit more confidence in that top end as well, in the 60. I really enjoy and really like, I've got the S in the previous model as well. I actually think the leading edge looks a little bit neater and a little bit straighter, which is quite important. So overall, it's a nice progression from a very, very popular wedge. You don't, you know, if you, other brands have done this very well over the years. You bring out a family of wedges, you tweak it. You don't need to it doesn't need to look overly different from the previous model because it's a wedge. What it does need to do is maybe make sure it performs. So let's hit a couple with, oh, it's nipped, it's nice. Sits very nice, feels very good. Very nice. What are we getting there? You can see that. It's a very nice sound. It's very soft. Try and hit a little one a little bit further. Yeah, really nice. It actually feels, that sounds bonkers, it actually feels quite powerful. For a 60-degree wedge, I feel like I'm not having to really put this in the back and trap it and get it out there. I can actually play this fairly neutral, and it launched quite nicely. It's good. Very good. How does that compare to the black head? Now, I'm a bit Marmite when it comes to the kind of coloured heads, if you like. I've played with them in the past. I'm very particular. If the face doesn't sit well on the black head for me, I really, really struggle. Let's just hit a couple. Really strong. That gives a really nice feel off of that. Really nice. To be honest, let me just hit one more. That really nice. You can see, we can get right into the camera there. You can see, I know we're hitting a range ball when we're hitting the TaylorMade range balls, but that is chewing up some ball very, very quickly. You might go through a few balls when you're playing with these wedges for the first time. That is some really good rip off of the ball. Not if you thin it though. Okay, one more. Just a really nice sound. I think actually my personal preference, it's very, very Marmite when it comes to the black heads, but my personal preference would be, well, I might even play a little bit. I might put some chrome into the lower lofts, but I really like the way that X sits. I really like the way that feels, and I tell you what, the black head, that dark shadow head, really frames the golf ball really, really nicely. So Callaway, well done. You've done a great job in progressing the Opus family. It's a super wedge. Obviously, performance-wise, you're going to need to play this on the golf course a little bit more. But I tell you what, you've kept the wedge game going. You've kept improving it. Opus SP is definitely going to be one for the rest of 2025 and into 2026. Remember, guys, if you like our videos, please hit that subscribe button and tell all your golfing friends.